Hello everyone, Simon Jacobson here, another episode of Meaningful Live. The Roots of Renewal, the Roots of Renewal. Listen to the song of the trees. This program is dedicated by Maria Rabinowitz in loving memory of her husband, Martin Rabinowitz, Moshe ben Yitzchak, Isaac. Tonight is what we call the New Year of Trees. Some people know it as Tu B'Shvat, Chamisha Asar B'Shvat, the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Shvat, is considered the new season of trees. In the Middle East, especially Israel, where the biblical roots of most of history begins, is the end of the rainy season. Even though it'd be hard to imagine that where you are right now, if you're now in the Northeast where I am, where it's freezing cold. But it's the end of the rainy season. The earth has been saturated and about ready to begin to bud. The new trees, the season of the trees is beginning to bud. It has been designated as the New Year of Trees. So first of all, it's fascinating in general to study trees, growth, how important it is to our lives, the photosynthesis, and so many other ways. And it's interesting, the Bible actually says, a man is like a tree in the field. We can be compared to a tree. So I wanted to focus on that because often in life there's so much happening, this fast-paced world, that it's important to pause and study a flower, a tree. It can give you much insight into your own life and direction and guidance. I don't know if you've ever seen the sequoia trees in the northwest part of California, Northern California, the redwoods. But there's one interesting fact that has always challenged scientists, botanists, people who studied these trees, how they have that ability to grow to such great heights. And it was interestingly discovered is their roots. The roots of these trees are all intertwined with each other. Though they're different trees, but under the ground, they all intertwine. So taking that into account, if you think about it, I don't know if you've ever seen an uprooted tree. It's quite amazing. As intricate as a tree may be with all its branches, the roots are equally complex. And sometimes they grow even further than the branches do. So as they say, trees grow in two directions at once. Downward, the roots, looking for water, and the branches going upward. First lesson in life in that is that, as my beginning of a poem I was thinking of, that powerful roots bear beautiful fruits. Anything that really grows well, it needs roots. There's no such thing as a self-made man, self-made woman. We all have roots. How much do we focus on that today? So much is focused on people, on success stories, of how much we accomplish, how driven we are, our skills and talents. But it comes from somewhere. Those roots is what holds up a tree, what sustains a tree. And those roots have a wisdom of their own. When NASA first went to outer space in the mid-60s or the early 60s, so one of the experiments that they sent with the astronauts that orbited the Earth for the first time, because this is the first time that human beings would be subject to an environment that was not affected by the gravitational pull. So one of the things they sent with them was a plant. A plant, like plants you put on your kitchen window or something. And you know what happened? The plant came back and it had roots growing in all directions. Not just at the bottom of the plant. Up, down, right, left. The whole plant was all roots growing in all directions because they lost their compass. Without the gravitational pull of Earth, they didn't know where down was. So they're constantly looking for sustenance. So roots have a wisdom to them of they're looking for water. So besides the fact that it connects us to previous generations, to the values, the standards, the things we learned from our parents and our grandparents and great-grandparents, and realize we stand on their shoulders, like a midget that stands on the shoulder of giants, the roots also have a certain type of like seeing eye that seek out what sustains us. And what sustains us is the water. Water, spiritually speaking, is direction, mission, guidance, intelligence. So right there, you see lessons from the trees. And when you look at the sequoia trees, it's not just roots, it's roots that are intertwined. So yes, on one hand, Hillel said, if I am not for myself, who am I? Who will be for me, I should say? Imein anili mili, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But then he also said, if I'm only for myself, what am I? Because we are an indispensable musical note in a complex composition. And we need everyone as much as they need us. So we're intertwined. The key is to find the balance, find the right boundaries, not to step on each other, not to suffocate each other. But the idea of roots is critical in life. So ask yourself, how are your roots doing? Well, many people sadly say, my parents, I have no relationship with my parents. Well, that's not nice, right? That's not good. But there could be a legitimate reason for that. Parents that are abusive, absentee, that are hurtful, critical, judgmental. But that doesn't mean you don't need roots. What are you doing to compensate for that? Maybe you need to find a mentor, a teacher, a father figure, a mother figure. Because roots are always vital. That is why it's so hurtful, actually. Because when your roots are in some way estranged from you, or you're estranged from them, that's depriving you of something. Again, case by case, I'm not suggesting anyone re-engage with a dysfunctional or abusive relationship. But it's important to know that it's not like you can just move on and ignore it. We all need love in our lives, and we need roots. And it's the roots that help you grow. Because the tree will grow in direct proportion to how well the roots are growing. In the Bible, you'll find several times an expression, and the trees of the forest will sing a song. One place it says, and the trees will clap, like we clap with our hands. Now, of course, it's metaphorical, but more than metaphorical. There are times that you actually see, you go into the woods, forest, you can also hear the music, the wind rustling through the leaves, and even whistling, almost like it sometimes sounds like a flute. I remember first time I went camping. It was in Woodstock, New York. The beautiful mountains there. So some professional campers they pitched a tent for me. I remember it was a Friday night. And they set it all up, a nice pillow, I had blanket. It was very comfortable. Not a 5-star hotel exactly, and they pitched the tent in a very unique place. I don't know why. Anyway, around maybe 5 a.m. in the morning, I had a nice sleep. It was very fresh air. I literally hear flutes. I thought there was some ensemble or some group welcoming committee coming to serenade me. Literally like flutes, like music. And I look out of the tent and there's no one there. And then I realized where they situated me was between the mountains and the many trees, that the winds in the morning when they begin to blow literally sounds like flutes. I kid you not. And I remember thinking to myself, the trees are singing to us. They have a song they want us to hear. Are we listening? And part of that song is the message of roots. There are more messages. The idea that one has to constantly grow. One has to bear fruit, a fruit tree. Means your activities have to bear fruit. Whether it's through students, people you inspire, you share a kind word with. In other words, something perpetual. That's what fruits are. That a tree produces fruits. Fruits are good deeds. Fruits have seeds in them that in turn can produce another tree ad infinitum. So basically, the tree really teaches us that you are like the tree of the field, and you have within yourself all kinds of abilities that you need to be accessing that actually make you a greater person. Another interesting thing is that you find often in relationships, I call it sun personalities and moon personalities, sun and moon. What does that mean? A sun personality is very consistent. It shines every day. The sun doesn't go through many changes. Obviously, we know today sunspots and there are changes, but it's not that obvious. The moon is the exact opposite, always changing. The phases of the moon. We're talking, of course, the angle as it's directed toward Earth. So you have the new moon, you have the first quarter, you have the full moon, the third quarter, and then finally again the moon is waxing and waning. Two different types of personalities. There are people like clerks. They're predictable, like the sun, you know exactly. They come on time, reliable, consistent. But they can also be boring because they're so predictable. Then there are those people who are free spirits, bohemians. They come late. They're not predictable. They're spontaneous. Sometimes to the point where you just can't rely on them. I'm not suggesting it's all good. But on the other hand, they have a certain adventure, something unique, something unpredictable that gives it vibrancy. So the question is, which one would you prefer in a relationship? Would you like to have the predictable one that's consistent all the time? You know you can rely on, and so on. The other person you can't rely on. Every night their hat is somewhere else. Or this adventurous type. So obviously we'd love one for one reason, and the other, can you combine both of them? Which we'll get to in a moment. Or like they say, I prefer heaven for its climate and hell for the company. So here we have the story of the tree. The tree has both elements to it. On one hand, very deep-rooted roots, and they are unwavering. They're not mercurial or shifting, changing all the time. They need to be solid, like solid foundations, deeply anchored in the ground. And yet a tree grows. It's not stationary, it's not static. So in other words, in life, you really need both. You need foundations that are unwavering, unchangeable, but not at the expense of the adventure, not at the expense of growth, of movement, of flexibility, of, yes, something spontaneous. And you'll find people who have both. They have the strong foundations in place, but they also have that sparkle in the eye. They're living to the fullest. And if you look at a human being, we're also that way. Look at the heartbeat. A healthy heartbeat is constantly moving. Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. Our breath, exhale, inhale. But there are things that are consistent that have to be constant. As much as there's movement, the movement is built upon something that is solid. So my friends, there's so much to be learned from trees. On this New Year of Trees, it's good to celebrate with the trees, to listen to their song, to listen to their clapping, and learn from them. Because they're here to be part of our lives. In addition, of course, to our protecting them. But to help us all become better, and not just better, to become the best we can be. So I hope this message was meaningful. And if you found it meaningful, please share it with others. Fruits, perpetual. Pay it forward. A ripple effect, butterfly effect. And please subscribe to our offerings, to our YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments. Be well and be blessed. Simon Jacobson, meaningfullife.com is our website, is also our station where you can find all our wide array of content. You can also access our AI now, simonjacobson.ai, to ask anything you like. Again, be well and be blessed.